It's a new week and 9 guys have picked up dual positions. So the multi-position NRL Fantasy, very exciting update because some of these guys are serious fantasy options. Biz, I'm going to jump right in here. First one up here is Ryan Madison. He goes from middle to middle and edge, which is pretty handy, right?
Yeah, it's a real solid update. Unfortunately, he's injured for a bunch more weeks, so it doesn't actually make a difference right now. But this is a guy who can average close to 60 when he's fully fit and playing big minutes. And now he's got both middle and edge dual position, and he plays a lot of the big buy rounds. So if he can get back on deck pretty quickly, I think they're looking at around 16, 17. If he can be back for that round 16 by playing 16, 19, it's a huge difference because, in round 12, I was choosing Hopgood or Madison, and I chose Hopgood just on the fact that he was dual position. It went my way because, Madison got injured. But if Madison was dual position, I think I would have been picking him because with all the buys this year, having the ability to move players to certain spots is really important. So definitely moves the needle for him, makes him even more enticing when he comes back.
Makes him a super gun. And look, 756K, not a bad price. Next guy here is Scotty Sorensen. Not that much cheaper, 80K less, but not quite the fantasy pedigree of Ryan Madison. Saying that in great form. Massive pod here. Would you ever consider buying Scott Sorensen?
I think a lot are looking at him right now because he's got less than 2% ownership. Averaging 54 when starting in the second row this year. Dual position plays around 16 and 17. He's actually played 80 minutes the last 2 weeks over Hosking. Scored 2 tries for 94 in round 11 and backed it up with a 55 last week. He is a guy that's really improved over the last few years, and he's become a solid player into an actual attacking threat. He has decent base stats, 30 tackles, 100 meters, but he can break tackles, he can offload, he breaks the line. So he's not a bad option. My only thing with him is Liam Martin's getting fitter. Garner's still lurking around. Probably not going to be a factor. But with Salmon, Garner, Hosking, and Sorensen all vying for minutes, I'm not sure how many of these guys will be in the frame for 80 minutes, week in, week out. And at 676K, he needs 80 minutes. And if he's not getting it, he's probably just a mid-ranger. But if you think he can get the 80-minute spot, dual position, same arguments as Madison, I love that.
He's also a guy who's so effective through the middle. So if they lose anyone in the middle, the first point of call for them is going to be, let's move Scott Sorensen back, rather than let's give Lindsay Smith more minutes, for example. So there is a lot of risk there. And at that price, if he was in the 500s, it would be a slam dunk. And he was in the 500s at one point. But yeah, for
670, 482 when he got that second row position.
Yeah, it was tough at that point. But yeah, 676, it's too much. It's too much for me. I'm not considering it at all. Next guy here is Jojo Fifita. And watching him play a couple of his early games this year, I hadn't seen his price yet because he wasn't a guy really on my radar. But I was sort of watching him and thinking, if he's in the low 300s, I'm probably going to go buy him. He was just getting very involved. He gets outside his man a lot. That Titans attack is really fun. He gets that wing fullback center dual position. It's just, for 487K, I'm not interested anymore. You bring him in. You could bring him in a buy team. A draft team, for example. He covers both those spots. It's kind of interesting there. Guys like him and Junior Tupou are free agents in a couple of my leagues, so I don't mind him for that. But otherwise, I'm probably skipping Jojo.
Yeah, nothing really to add. He actually plays pretty well at centre. He averages 42 at centre, so he's not a bad pick. But they've got enough backs there that you're not really sure if he's a winger or a centre any given week. Like he played wing a couple of weeks ago, so who knows? But good pot.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's playing good for the Titans, so good for him. Next guy, Phoenix Crossland. And Phoenix is one of the weirdest players for fantasy. So last week, he was having an absolute dud. And he scored the ugliest try I've ever seen in my life. The ball dribbled out the back. We can call it an offload. I'm not going to call it an offload, but it's a dribble out the back. And of course, Phoenix Crossland was there. He's a guy with a great work rate. He does some good things. A lot of what he does isn't pretty, but he goes hard. He got 50 points. He's now half and hooker eligible. If you have him, you're holding on to him, right?
Yeah, I think as long as Kurt Mann's out and he's playing the big man hooker role, he probably has a path to 550, 600K. Like he's shown enough that if he's playing big man at the hooker, he could average 45. So I think if you've held him this long, you might as well run him until Mann comes back. And I don't think that door position really helps. Like I feel like there's so many good halves this year. I feel like halves is the most stacked position this year. You've got Cleary, Hines, DC, Moses, yeah, same tier, right? All these guys who are like averaging 60 plus, Sean Johnson, there's like five. Yeah, Oluwapu by the end of the season. So you got 5 plus Oluwapu who are averaging 60. So you don't like half dual position not that useful, but hooker is tricky. So yeah, if you've got him in your team, hold him. I wouldn't go out and buy him though.
I mean, it comes in if Hines or Cleary don't back up, and it's a week where Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses are on a bye, or Matt Burton has a bye after 17. I say him because I have him. Most people don't, but yeah, it could come into play. It's nice to have. It's a nice to have. Next guy, Raymond Faitala-Mariner, and look, he's a guy who's been on the precipice of breaking out in fantasy for it feels like a couple of decades at this point. I think it's time to sort of give up on that in terms of fantasy production. But he gets that dual position. If he comes back from his injuries and looks like getting a big minute edge roll, which, I mean, Ockenbaugh's on the edge this week, so maybe there's a path to that.
That's what I don't really understand. Like, he's actually a really good... Must be the injury thing, but every year he's played on that edge, playing 80 minutes. He's actually looked amazing. Like, he's looked like fantastic. A top first grader in attack, defense. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Ockenbaugh is a defensive stalwart either. So, yeah, I mean, he could come back. Are you
dissing the Ock right now?
No, I wouldn't dare.
The Ock, our super pod. We'll keep rolling here because, some of these guys, actually, the last couple are really interesting. Montoya's not that interesting.
I love how you said that about Montoya. One of my friends, good friends, bought Montoya last week. And just to get 17, and there was no real options. He is now ranked in like the top 150. So clearly, Montoya is a stud that we need to be getting on the team.
I mean, Montoya can pop off a big game, I guess.
I think it was a bit of a panic buy, but it worked out for him with that 35 at 390K.
I
am still dumbfounded by it. But he's making better decisions than me the last few weeks. He's flying up. He's been slowly creeping up. He's aiming for that top 100 this week. So
does he want to come on the show?
We'll have to get him in just a video about Montoya.
Legit, because like he's up the top there and he's making some crazy moves. And we always say this, like those crazy moves that might be dumb 90% of the time are kind of how you get to the top ranks sometimes. Like you almost have to get lucky on especially if you own Montoya when you say these bigger games. Those moves can move the needle for you. So no, I kind of love that. I'd love to see his team. Next guy here, and these are a couple of guys close to your heart, Biz. So we got Bailey Simonson first. We also have Sean Russell next. Look, 431K, 375K. They're in a similar category, so I think we can speak about them as one at this point. But look, which one of these guys, if you're in the market for a center/wing fullback, you wanted to buy from this year's premiership team, Parramatta Eels, which one of these guys would you be going for?
Probably Simonson, because he's more locked into that position, I feel, than Russell. Simonson's actually been really good the last few weeks. I just looked at his last 3 averages, 40, last 5 average of 36, dual position now. Playing inside Sivo, who's scoring a lot of tries down the left edge. That edge is only going to get better, because remember, like if you look at the stack, it's Sean Lane into Dylan Brown, into Simonson, into Sivo. That is a very attacking, potent edge.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you've got Moses, Moses Penasini, who's looking like a tackle-busting, line-breaking beast this year, and then Russell finishing off on top of that. So I think they're actually both really good shouts who could probably average in the mid-30s. But Bailey being an actual center who has a lot more tackle breaking ability, and he likes the tough hit ups. The only thing is Russell probably has the bigger try upside, but Simonson can just get free assists from just the last man pass to Sivo. So they're pretty handy as well. So both are pretty good. I wouldn't probably get either of them now at the 400K mark, but if you got them when they were like 300K, then I think it's pretty good. I think I might have to trade one of them this week, and it'll probably be Russell.
Yeah, Simo was at the top of our buy list about a month ago, and he was, because it was when Billy Smith was coming on, and Billy Smith's been up and down, but I think both. Well, I definitely went out and said I think Simo will outscore Billy Smith for people, factoring in the better buy schedule as well. And it was pretty bold at the time, and you were high on him as well. So we'll definitely claim those ones. The thing with Bailey Simonson, he's getting more confident. He's running the ball a lot more. He's crabbing a bit more lately as well.
I love that run. I love that Jack Bird ceremony. You come in, you just barge off one, do a 360, 180 degree, turn around, running backwards, go back the other way. He made like 4 or 5 busts like that last week. But I was just looking at Simonson's stats now, and he's 170 meters last week, 180 meters the week before that. Ever since coming into the center position, he's played 4.5 games there. And other than the Raiders game, which was actually really surprising because he played really well that game against his former club, like he hasn't scored under 40 yet. And even in the Broncos game where the Eels were getting demolished in the first half, he was on track for 40. So he's probably a 40-point guy. So almost at center, it's not too bad actually. Like that's real handy.
He's gonna have some duds though. Like the stats don't say it, but there will be games where he maybe has a couple of drop balls early, and maybe the work rate doesn't come naturally, and I don't know, something different happens in terms of game script.
They do, but they do. I mean, let me read out the next 5 games for you for the Eels. They've got the Bulldogs, the Sea Eagles, the Dolphins, the Warriors, the Titans, and then Cowboys. So in that next 6 games, there's no real team that is a defensive clamp. Like Dolphins could be there, but like Titans are a good team this year, but they're just outscoring teams in shootouts. So that's actually conducive to Simonson playing well. So if you're a Simonson and Russell owner, it's almost worth holding them for that run because they could really get to by round 20, they could be worth 450, 500K if Eels start getting hot.
And they play the major buy rounds. Like that's the thing there. If you can hold both, you got those major buy rounds covered. It's really nice. Look, last guy on this list, Jakey Granville. We'll hit him really quick. Jake Granville, if you had him, you are loving life. He's got the hooker and mid switch, which is the biggest one on this list.
That's nice.
It's massive. Like you've got so many good options. You can only play one of them in the major buy rounds. So Granville now becomes what Brandon Smith was meant to be before he broke all our hearts. And he's a hot one to have. Tamalolo back is a bit tough for him. And we talk about Granville and buy, hold, sell, so we won't drag that one out. But anyway, these are the guys who got the new DPP positions. So are any of these guys on your list for buys this week, or you're looking to buy them in the future? Let us know in the comments what trades you're making this week, and we'll see.